It's been a long time since I have done a live video, but I want to start. This morning I woke up and I said to myself, there are exactly 30 days until my birthday, my 34th birthday. So why not, while I have this month left until my new year of my birthday, do a challenge, right? I love challenges. And if you've seen any of my other speeches, in my 30 speeches and 30 days challenge or my 12 days of joy challenge, I'm into this. So today, I want to start a conversation around unplugging from the Matrix. And I know many of us have seen that movie, right? The Matrix, where Neo, right, has this choice from Morpheus of whether he's going to take the blue pill, where he can go back to the world he knew and he can choose the life that he wants to choose and just go back to normal, or where he takes the red pill and he continues to go down the rabbit hole and stay in what is called Wonderland. So we hear the words escape from the Matrix, unplug from the Matrix all the time. But what exactly is this concept, this word, the Matrix? I did a little bit of research and I looked it up online, and through watching lots of videos and through watching The Matrix and just through my own reflection. And The Matrix is interesting because the word, the etymology of the word, is actually from the Latin mater, right? Which means mother, parent. And historically, I think the first time the word the Matrix was used was in 1555, right? So a long time ago. And in Rome, the meaning of the word matrix was meant for a female animal that was kept for breeding. Get into that, honey. A female animal that was kept for breeding or reproducing, right? And this also was used for parent plants or plants that were used as the seed that was, kept reproducing new plants. And I know there's this scene in The Matrix. It was like the craziest scene, right? Where Morpheus says to Neo, "Welcome to the Matrix." And you see this dark city or organization of these pods, right? And then inside these pods are actual human beings that are hooked up to this system, right? Like almost like they're hooked up to a computer. And when we think about the word matrix in mathematical terms, matrix actually means it's a series of code, right? A series of numbers in a rectangular form, code. From a geological perspective, the word matrix actually means the soil that's described to hold fossils. And fossils are kind of like, right, if you've ever seen a fossil, it's like a smaller imprint rock, almost like a baby rock inside of another rock or inside of a soil, embedded in the soil. So the whole concept of the matrix is that of reproducing, right? Reproducing. And I think that's so interesting when we think about our own lives. And when I understand the matrix, what the matrix actually means to me is this concept of awakening from a system. Awakening from a system when people say unplug from the matrix or escape the matrix, what I take that term to mean is truly that you are escaping from what society wants you to think about the world. And instead, you are opening up yourself to a totally new concept of what the world, the universe, actually is. And let's break this down for a second. Let's break this down for a second. Okay? When I say awakening, right? I don't mean like when you're sleeping and you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm gonna start a new day. When I say awakening, I mean awakening internally, right? So like awakening from this dream state of your entire life. A lot of times when we think about our minds, right, there are two types or two parts, major parts of our mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And our conscious mind is what we do, what we use to create, right? So when we are saying positive mantras to ourselves, I am beautiful, I am gorgeous, I am happy, those we are actively doing with our conscious mind. But what we don't think about a lot is our subconscious mind. And our subconscious mind is those programs that we've installed in our minds since we were born, right? And you might be like, programs that we install in our mind, like, what are you talking about? Right? And this goes back to the concept of awakening. When you are awakening, and for some of you, I know, because for me too, this might sound really interesting and really different and really confusing. But I think about awakening as a sense of a flower, right? Or a seed growing, or a season changing, right? So let's think about it in terms of there's a gestation period when you're born, right? You have to be in your mother's womb. And I know some of us come out a little earlier, but probably, in terms of science, for about 9 months, right? That is your gestation period, when your seed is literally being planted in your soil of your mother, the womb of your mother, so that you can grow. And while you are in the womb of your mother, right, or while a seed is in the soil, it is absorbing whatever the soil has in it, right? So before we are even born, we are already starting to absorb concepts from our mom, right? We are already starting to absorb concepts of different things about society. And when we are born and we first open our eyes, we are introduced to what life is supposed to be like, right? When you come out, you are given a name, right? And you are assigned that name. You're given a social security number. And that is the number that helps everyone to understand in the government who you are, right? It helps you to apply for financial aid and to have a bank account and all sorts of things, right? It's a code. Like the Matrix is a code. And when you awaken from the Matrix, you are essentially awakening from a code, a system, a way of life, a way of thinking. And you are introducing yourself to a brand new way of thinking. And when you do that, You have to ask yourself a question. And that question is, am I going to be a truth seeker, or am I going to continue to conform? Just like Neo had to ask himself, right? Am I going to take the blue pill and go back to the life that I know? Because the life that I know is super comfortable and it's super cushy, and I already understand this story. I might not like this story, I might not like my situation in life, but I understand it. And because I understand it, well, honey, it's easier, right? So you have to ask yourself, when you're thinking about this concept of unplugging from the matrix or escaping from the matrix, am I going to be a truth seeker, or am I going to be a conformer? Do I want to replay the same stories? Because essentially, what we are doing every day is we are replaying a story about ourselves, right? And for many of us, we are living and replaying the same story about ourselves that has been played since our childhood, right? Because from birth to about 7 years old is when you are understanding the world through your parents' eyes, right? And you are essentially downloading all of these programs as an observer of what life is supposed to be like, right? During these years of 0 to 7, you learn major concepts, right? Like you learn your ABCs, you learn numbers, you learn colors, right? You learn your P's and Q's, how to be polite. You learn the English language, how to talk, how to interact with people, right? Or whatever your first language is, that's what you learn from your mom, from your dad, from whoever is your caretaker. And we take those things, we absorb those things, and those things become our story, right? Like, you ever hear your parents say stuff about you in front of other people? Like, oh, my daughter, she doesn't talk that much, she's shy. So then your whole life, right, you start to accept that story in your subconscious mind of who you are. I'm shy, I don't talk that much. Right? When I was growing up, my mom used to say, you're such a worrier. You worry a lot. And so when I was going into my 20s and even probably in my 30s, like my early 30s, I accepted that as my truth. And then I remember I had this breakthrough moment when I was 27 years old. I was a teacher and I wasn't happy. And I was living this life and I made money and, like I had a nice apartment and I lived in a nice area, but I wasn't happy. And for the first time, I woke up, I remember this, and I said to myself, and it wasn't like I said it out loud, right? It was like I said it inside. There was like this voice within that said it. And it was the first time I allowed myself to listen to this voice. And the voice inside said, it's time. It's time to leave that job. It's time to detach. And it was really scary because I was like, what do you mean? When we get ideas, when we hear things from our inner voice, it's kind of scary because you're just like, what? I don't want to, I can't do that. You feel like, that's crazy. I can't just leave my job, something that I worked for my entire life. I can't just do that. But when you start to awaken, to these truths, right? These truths about who you really are. You hear these questions about things that you never really thought to consider, right? And the thing is, in this society, we have become so good, honey, at distractions. We become so good at distractions that we don't allow ourselves to hear that inner voice anymore because we don't like silence, right? There's so much greatness in technology because right now I'm using technology to talk to you. But the interesting thing about technology is we become so reliant on it that we are living our lives through technology and we've forgotten how to live our lives out or off or unplugged from technology, right? There are all these apps that are created to keep you on them, to interact, do everything on them. That when you're off of it, right, you don't even know how to function. And you have dinner with a friend and there's a quiet moment, right? The cleverness of technology tells you, pick up your phone, check your notifications, see if anybody's texted you. We don't just sit with that quiet moment. Just let it be, right? Let those thoughts seep in. Let those voices, those messages speak to us. That's what awakening is all about. And awakening isn't something that's super comfortable. If you think about it, it's like giving birth to a new form of yourself. And when you give birth, generally, it's painful. Or even when you come out of the womb, it's a lot, right? You have all these different stimulus because you're going from one world inside your mom's womb into this other society, into this other world, and you cry, and there's all these doctors around, and it's like, whoa, it's super uncomfortable, right? And when you, when you awaken, it is super uncomfortable. It's like when you get a new pair of shoes, what happens? Usually when you get a new pair of shoes, what do you have to do? You have to break them in, right? When you get a new pair of shoes, you have to break them in because you are essentially walking a new path. And a lot of us say, I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to grow. It's like we want to grow. It's like we want to progress. We want to know the answers, but we don't really want to do the work, which is really uncomfortable, right? Like when you're breaking in a pair of shoes, it's super uncomfortable at first. Like, oh, when I take these off, I don't like how these feel, right? And then once you get used to it, it feels good. And they're molded to your feet. That's essentially what unplugging from the matrix and awakening is. But you have to ask yourself, are you a truth seeker or are you going to just continue to conform? Are you going to continue to replay the same programs in your mind about who you are? Or are you going to challenge those programs? Now, is that easy? Definitely not. Because you're dealing with like years of programming that you've installed, right? Or that have been installed in you from your upbringing, from your childhood, that you need to take away, erase, uninstall, right? And that takes a lot of work. But the first way you can start to unplug from the matrix is through concentrating and listening. Some people call concentration meditating or meditation. So in this challenge for myself and for you, if you're going to join me, I'm going to ask you to try things. And so today, in terms of our challenge in unplugging from the matrix, I'm going to ask you to take some time today in nature. Yes. Take some time today in nature. Now, some of you might say, I don't have time. I have to go to work. I'm at work. Where am I going to get a chance to go? I got to get lunch, blah, blah, blah. Okay. If you can't take some time in nature, take some time to look out the window. Or if you have a plant, and plants are so interesting. I want to get into that in another video, but plants are so interesting because they're like worlds within worlds, right? But I want you to take some time today to be out in nature, whatever that means for you. But to take some time and look at something in nature. Allow yourself to totally, completely immerse into that thing. Concentrate specifically on that thing, right? So let's say that you go out in nature and you see this amazing tree, right? This beautiful tree. Pick a spot on that tree, whether it's the leaves. You know, for me, for my plant, I like to look at a leaf of the plant and just really give all my energy to that plant. All my focus, all my concentration to that plant. And I challenge you to do this if you're new to like meditation. Try to do it for 1 minute, 2 minutes. If you're experienced in meditation, I challenge you to do it for 3 to 5 minutes. And you concentrate all of your energy just looking at that one thing. Don't think about anything else. And you allow yourself in dedicating all your energy to that one thing, that concentration without distractions, to let go. Because all of your energy is going to that. And when you let go and give your concentration and your energy to this beautiful thing that you're focusing on in nature, you're going to hear these voices, right? These messages come up. And when you hear these messages come up, just let them come. Don't try to tune them out. Let them come. And you know what? Sometimes they might not be happy messages. Sometimes your inner child may be trying to talk to you and tell you something that you weren't able to hear before because you had your headphones in, because you were watching something on Instagram, because of whatever. You were distracted. But when you give this 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute in your day to concentrating on something in nature, you will allow yourself to truly listen. And you allow yourself for those moments to unplug, and answers to questions, messages that you need to hear will start to flow to you. So try it. I'm going to try it too. And I encourage you when you're done, right, when you've stepped away from that moment of concentration, take a piece of paper and write down what came to you. What words did you hear? What messages did you hear? Write it down. And then, if it scared you, good. Ask yourself, am I going to be a truth seeker? I'm going to focus in on these messages and see what they really mean and explore them a little bit more? Or am I just going to go on with my day and act like nothing happened? Either one is fine because it's your choice, but I encourage you to be a truth seeker. You know, it's like those moments that we have where we might be going on about our day and we see something, right? Or we hear something from another person's conversation or on a billboard or in a song that is speaking specifically to something we've been thinking about, we've been feeling in our hearts. That synchronicity, that moment where you're thinking about someone and you just happen to see them walking down the street. Now that is something that's undeniable, right? That is, to me, an inclination that there's something way deeper going on. And if we allow ourselves to tap in to our inner voice, our inner guide, to use our other eye, that eye that is behind the mind, right here, that third eye, that special all-seeing eye, that is how we begin to unplug from the matrix. So I challenge you to try that today, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate it. Have a beautiful, amazing, energy-filled, positive, fun, creative day. This is your day. This is your life. Live it to the fullest, to the max. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for watching.